Hi, my name is Belinda and I'm the training lady, and today I'd like to take you through the process of creating a game of concentration in Microsoft PowerPoint. I've had lots of requests for this one over the years in terms of a video version, so we're going to go through and step our way through. Now, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This is fiddly, so we are going to step our way through, and remember that all the step-by-steps are in my website, and you can grab the link down in the description below. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to set up our first initial slides. Now we need 2 slides to start with, and those slides are going to contain the cards that we're going to use as what we call the top card, and then we're going to have a second slide which contains those bottom cards. We will eventually combine them into one, but it is much easier for this process if you have the top and the bottom cards separated onto different slides. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just create a brand new presentation here. And the first thing I'm going to do here is I am going to get rid of this slide layout, because at the moment it's set up as my title slide. I'm going to go to my layout button and just change it over to a blank. Now, the first thing I have to do here is I need to create my cards. Now, I'm going to use the shapes feature in PowerPoint to better create this nice and simple. So I'm going to go to the Insert tab and go to my Shapes button and just choose that little rectangle. Now, little tip, if you want a perfect rectangle or a perfect square in this case, I should say, if you hold down the Shift key as you draw the shape, it will actually make it a perfect little square for you. But I want rectangles, so I'm just going to basically draw a little rectangle there. Now, I happen to know the exact sizes that I need these rectangles to be to fit nicely on the slide, and for those playing at home, about 7.5 centimeters in width works fantastic, and around that 4 centimeters in height works great. So I've created my first one, I've resized them to be those exact measurements, and then I can just kind of move it to that top left corner. Now I need to create lots more of these, and I'm not going to do these one by one, so I am going to duplicate my shape. And you can use the shortcut Control D for duplicate on the keyboard to make copies. So I don't have to copy and then paste. So I'm just going to select that first shape, press Control D on my keyboard, it makes another copy. I can drag that to the left, to the right of it, another one, and another one. All right, you can see as I'm duplicating, it knows where that shape was, and it kind of just continues it on. If you find that your shapes are not lined up, or the spaces between each one are maybe a little bit out of whack, you can easily select all of these using the Shift button, and I can go and align these to maybe the top edge, and then I can also distribute them evenly horizontally as well. These are already perfectly sized and separated though. So I want 2 more rows of these. So I'm going to have all 4 selected. I'm going to duplicate that to give me a second set that I can move down, and then again to get my third set. So now I've got my 12 shapes. Now, once I've got the first set of cards, these are going to be what we call our top cards. So these are going to be the card that hides what's under them. And then we need to create the second set. So I'm going to duplicate this slide so that I don't even need to go through that process again. I might just try and get these a little bit more centered on the screen though. So I'm just going to select all of them and just move them into the middle a little bit better. There we go. I'm happy with that now. All right, to duplicate the slide, I'm going to right mouse click on the slide number 1 over here on the left and choose duplicate slide. Now, so these are easier to differentiate, I'm going to make the second set of cards a different color. So I'm going to select one of the cards and then select all with Control A. And then I'm going to go up to my shape format tab here. And you can see these are all this very dark teal color. I'm going to change the second set to green. All right, so now I've got my top cards are the teal, and then we've got the second set are my nice green color. Now I'm still on slide 2. The next thing I need to do is add the pictures that are going to form part of my game of concentration. So students are going to have to find the matching card in amongst the 12 different options that they've got. So I've got 6 photos or 6 pictures of some different animals, and I'm going to have 2 copies of each of them. So I'm going to go ahead and insert those pictures. I'm just going to go to the Insert tab, go to Pictures, and choose that I have them on this device. And I just have them saved in a folder on my computer. All right, I can choose all of those now. You can see my 6 there and insert them all in one go. Now they are going to go in quite large, so I'm just going to go quickly through and resize these. I'm going to resize them to a little bit smaller than the height of the card. So the cards are all 4 centimeters in height. So I'm going to resize these to around that 3.8 kind of centimeter mark. All right, so I'll click one and then I'll just go and resize these. There we go, I've got them all resized and I've now placed them over the top of the cards. Now I do need to make a copy of each of these, so I'm going to duplicate the images and then put them in the second spot that I want them to be featured. There we go, and they're all lined up nicely and sitting where I need them to be. Now the next thing we want to do is we need to group the card and the picture. So they essentially become one object within PowerPoint. It makes it much easier to deal with all of these. So I'm going to go ahead through each one of these. I'm going to select the card in the background. And then if you hold down the control key on your keyboard, you can then select the picture as well. And you can see the little resize markers appear around both the shape and the picture. Once I've got that, I can also go to the picture format option and I can group through here if you want to. But a lot of people do right mouse click. So if you do a right mouse click, you've got a group setting there and then I can choose to group them together. So you'll need to go through now and group each of the cards and pictures together. All right, so I've now grouped together the shape and the picture for each of these. You can see I can't click individually now and move them. They are kind of locked together. Now that we've got that done, we are going to now go back to slide 1 and we now need to start naming each of our cards. Now, again, this naming process is a little bit fiddly, but it makes the process much easier in terms of knowing what you're clicking on and what you're animating and that sort of stuff as well. So we're going to go back to the first slide. I'm going to click on the first shape, or any shape to be honest. And I'm going to go and click on the shape format tab at the very top here. And what I want to do is open up the selection pane. It opens up a little panel down the right side and it will actually show us the name of all of the shapes that we have on the screen at the moment. You can see there's a little icon here with it kind of looks like a little eyeball. That's your show or hide icon, so you can hide shapes off the slide if you want to. You can also lock them so that they can't be deleted and edited. Now what we want to do here is we want to rename these. So I'm going to guess that rectangle 3 is my first rectangle, which it is. And as you click on each one, you'll see the selecting icons will appear as you kind of move through. So I'm going to start with rectangle 3 and I'm just going to double click on the name here and it'll allow me to then edit that. And I want to call this top 1 because it's my top card and it's in the number 1 position. Now I can repeat this for the rest of them. I'm going to go top 2, top 3, etc. So complete that for the rest of the shapes. All right, so all of my cards have now been renamed because they are my top cards and I've just named them 1 through 12 in order. If you do find that any of your shapes, the naming is out of order in this list, you can drag and drop these through the list to change the order of them. It just makes it a little bit easier to kind of manage them as well. Now that we've named all of the top cards, we're going to repeat that process for all of our bottom cards, which have the actual pictures on them as well. So go back to slide 2. And do the same thing. We're going to go into the selection pane, which you should already be able to see. I'm just going to make mine a little bit bigger. But what you'll notice is that we do have the grouping here. All right, so you'll see each group has a picture and a rectangle as part of the group. Now, this time when you name the cards, you are going to name the entire group. We're not going to name the individual picture or the rectangle. So I'm going to click and select group 31 in my case, and that actually highlights and selects for me that first card. And if I, again, just double click, I can name this now bottom 1 because it's in the first position and it is the bottom card with the picture on it. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and repeat that for the rest. And you can see I've got a couple of them out of order here. So I am going to go ahead and fix these up as well as part of this process. All right, just like magic, I've renamed all of my groups and I have changed the order of them as well because they were all out of order. So just as a side note, if you're going to change the order of them, just use the little arrows in the top right corner of the selection pane. It'll allow you to move them around and change the positioning of the shapes in that order. So I've got them from bottom 1 all the way up to bottom 12, which is my very last shape in my slide. Next up, we want to go and apply our first set of animations. So what we want to do here is go to slide 1 and set up the animations that will essentially make the card disappear when we click on top of it. So let's go to slide 1 and we're going to just select one of the cards. and do a select all, so Control A, because we want to apply the same animation to everything. Now, the other thing here I really recommend is that when you want to have multiple animations applied to a single object in PowerPoint, you can't really use the animation gallery that you can see up here, because this applies the animation, but then it overrides whatever you've put on there. So if you want to be able to add additional animations, always use the little add animation button here. So I'm going to go in here, I'm going to click add animation, and I am going to go and choose the more exit effects down the bottom of the menu here. The one I'm particularly wanting to work with here is one called the collapse function. You could use whatever you want, but obviously I'm going to use this particular one. So there it is there. So I click collapse, and you can see it kind of just does a little collapse up on itself. And then I'm just going to click OK. So what you should get now is a little 1 is showing to the left-hand top corner of each shape, showing us that we have applied that animation. The next thing we want to do with these animated objects is we want to change the start setting. So this is kind of like a trigger to know when a particular animation is going to run. And what you want to make sure of is that all of these cards are set to the on click start function. So select all the cards again if you've clicked off them. From that animations tab, go over to this timing section and make sure the start setting is set to on click. Now at the moment, the panel on the right hand side is the selection panel. It's what we use to be able to rename each of the cards. What we want to do now is switch over to see the animation pane, because it's going to allow us to see what animations have been applied to each of the shapes. So from the animations tab, go ahead and click on the animation pane button, and you should see that little panel change over on the right. Now you can actually switch between the animation pane and the selection pane. There's two little buttons displayed on the right hand side here that now lets me toggle between those two options. So I'm going to make sure I'm in the animation pane. And again, you can see that that collapse effect has been applied to all of my 12 shapes. Now, the next lot of animations we want to add in is some animations to the bottom cards. Now, if you don't have any animations applied to these, I do tend to find it doesn't look as nice when you're actually playing through the game yourself. So applying a little animation to those bottom cards makes it just look a little bit nicer and a bit smoother in that transition between the top card and the bottom card. So click onto slide 2. And we are going to then go ahead and select all the shapes again. So Control A once you've selected one of them. And you can see on the right hand side here, the animation pane is showing nothing in there in terms of animations. Now we're going to go into, again, the add animation button. We're going to go and choose the more entrance effects. Now the one I'm going to pick here is called the stretch. And you can see if you scroll down, it's one of the moderate options. All right, so I'm going to choose that one. And you can see it kind of stretches it back open rather than before we had it kind of collapse to close. All right, so stretch and then click OK on that, and it will apply that transition, or that animation, I should say, to each of those cards. All right, so we have our animations applied on slide 1, which is our top cards, and we have our animations applied on the bottom cards in slide 2. Now we want to combine them into one slide so that the top and the bottom cards are actually on the same slide together. So what we're going to do here is we're going to click on to slide 2, and we're going to select one of the shapes, and again, select all. And what you want to do is Control C for copy, or you can go to your home tab and click the little copy button from there. But I'm going to make a copy of those. I don't cut them out because I do like to be able to go back to the originals and make changes to them if I need to. Maybe I've named something wrong or something like that. And vice versa, you could also do that with slide 1. Keep a copy of those two slides separate and then copy and paste them into a third slide if you want. I'm going to cheat a little bit here, and I'm going to go back and paste the copy back into slide 1. All right, so go to slide 1, hit your paste button, and you'll see you now have the top cards and the bottom cards are all on your one slide. And you'll also see in the animation pane that now all of the animations for the exits and for the entrance of the cards are all in one place. Now, at the moment, both our exit animations and our entrance animations are all set to the on-click start. Now, the problem is going to be that when we open and play this game, we're going to click on the cards to make it disappear, but we won't automatically then see the card below it because we then have to click a second time to get the bottom card to show. So what we're going to do here is we want to definitely have all the exit animations set to on click, because we do want students to have to click it to make that card go away. But we want the entrance or the bottom cards to then automatically show up. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to leave all of the exit animations set to on click. You can see there's a little mouse icon next to them. So if I highlight from top 1 to top 12, and I have a look at my animations tab, I can go in here and I'm going to make all of those an on click. All right, all of them are an on click. For my bottom cards though, I'm going to select from my bottom 1 card all the way to bottom 12. These ones are going to be after previous. So that means that when we click on that top card and make it disappear or make it invisible, automatically the bottom card will animate and show itself. Right, so after previous. When you test out these a little bit later, if you find that the speed of those animations is a little bit too fast or a little bit too slow, remember that you can always come back in here and change this duration setting, and that will either speed up that animation or slow it down to what you kind of want it to work with. All right, now that we have the animations all set up correctly and we have the start settings all set correctly, we now need to set up our triggers. Now these triggers are going to be what actually gets your card to disappear and then have the bottom card appear for you in one go. So what we're going to have to do here is you're going to go and select the first shape that you would have as your top card. So in this case, top 1. And then we're going to, I find it easiest to do this figure up here, but I'm going to go right mouse click and choose timing. And what you want to do here is click the little triggers button. If you drop that down, it's going to ask, how do you want to trigger this? And I'm going to say, start this effect on click of, and essentially it's going to be on click of itself. So when I click on top 1, it's going to trigger that animation, and then that will begin for me, right? So top 1 needs to be triggered by itself, top 2 triggered by itself, etc., etc. So you'll need to go through now and actually set this for all of your top cards. Go. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. All right, so now I've set up all of my top cards to be triggered by themselves, but then I need to add that second animation in so that each trigger knows what's supposed to happen within the sequencing. Now, the really easy way you can do this here is you can drag and drop these different animations into these trigger groups. So I'm going to grab my bottom 1 animation here. I'm just going to drag it under my top 1. So I've got my top 1 card and my bottom 1 card in the same trigger group there. All right, so I can just continue that for the rest of them, drag and drop it down. Starts to get a little bit hard when you're getting towards the bottom of the list because they don't all show in the one screen, but it will scroll for you if you just keep dragging it down. This is another reason why naming these comes in really, really handy, because this is where it really comes into its own, because it just saves you a bunch of time and not getting confused about what you're doing. So you should have a little trigger group with your top card and your bottom card in it, with the animations, with that start setting on it, and they're all ready for you to go. All right, last but not least, what we want to move now is the bottom cards are actually sitting over the top of our top cards at the moment. So I'm going to go and select all of my bottom cards. And I can't do a control all for this because otherwise it'll include those top cards. But what I want to do now is I want to directly sit them exactly spot on over the top of the top cards. What I'm going to do now though is I'm going to go to my shape format options, and I'm now going to send these behind the top card. So you've got this little send backwards option, and I'm just going to click it once. And you'll see each time I do one click of this, each of the cards is going to be pushed behind their top card. So I'm just going to keep clicking till all of them are behind. And now I can't see the bottom cards anymore. I'm just left with the top cards sitting at the top of the slide. All right, now for the test. Let's check if it works. So I am going to go and run this slideshow. Now you can use the slideshow button on the screen here. I always just press F5, so the F5 function key on your keyboard, and that will start the slideshow up for you. Here's my card showing. You can see putting your cursor over each card does give you the little hand. So I'm going to click on one of the cards. It makes my top card disappear and my bottom card is then displayed. Right, I can do 2 at a time. And now I can see that, yes, I can click and display any of the cards. But students can't at the moment get them to then flip back when they get a wrong match. So how do we fix that? Let's exit out of the slideshow. All right, so now we know that our top card will disappear when it's clicked on and that our bottom card will animate and display itself. But what we need to do now is have it so that students can flip the card back over if they did not get a match. So return back to slide 1. We are going to select all of the top cards. Now don't do a Control A here because again, remember it will also select those hidden bottom cards. And what I'm going to do is just move them down out of the way a little bit, just so that it is possible for me to click on those back cards. Now go ahead and click on all the bottom cards. We're going to have to select all of those and you should just be able to see them in that background area. Just have to be a little bit careful when you're selecting with the mouse. All right, we're going to go back to the animations tab again up on the ribbon. And again, we're going to go to the add animation button. And we're going to find more exit effects. Let's go and find again the collapse effect right there. So ultimately we have 4 animations that are going to be on each image. So we're going to have top card animated to disappear, bottom card animated to appear, and then we'll have to have the bottom card will then disappear and the top card will come back again. So we're going to have to do the 4 animations. So apply that collapse. All right, and now again, go back and select all the top cards. And again, we're going to go back to animations. We're going to go add animation again. We're going to go more entrance effects again. And we're going to go and find that stretch animation again so that it reopens the blank card again for us. Click OK. Now, just as we did with the animations before, we now need to set all of the exit animations to be and essentially triggered on click. So again, I'm going to select the bottom 1 through to bottom 12, and you'll notice I'm selecting the animations that are not part of these trigger groups that we already created. I'm going to make all of those on click. Make sure it has the little mouse icon next to each one. And then on the second set of entrance effects, I'm going to highlight top 1 to top 12. And again, go to my start and I'm going to choose after previous. All right, now that we have the start setting all correct, we're going to do the exact same thing we did previously. We're going to open up that first animation, which is now going to be our bottom card. And we're going to right mouse click on it and go to timing, go to triggers, tell it to start the effect on the click of its own shape. So in this case, we're changing the trigger for bottom 1. So it's going to be triggered when we click bottom 1. And it's going to again create little groups again, right? So just go through and do all of those exit animations. This one's bottom 2. All right, I've finished doing all of mine. So you can see I've got a new trigger group has been created for all the bottom cards. Now, again, same deal with the top cards. Now we need to grab them from the top here where they're animated to come back and be displayed again. And we're going to drag them down the list and pop them into that second trigger group. So again, you'll have to scroll down. There we go. So bottom 1 will disappear, top 1 will come back. So go through and add all of those little trigger groups together. All right, I've finished putting those into the little groups. Now you do want to give these a quick check over because you could have accidentally just dropped them into the wrong little trigger group and that will cause a problem. So I've got my first trigger group for the top 1 card and bottom 1, top 2, bottom 2, top 3, bottom 3, etc. Check that they're grouped together correctly with the numbering. And remember, you'll have 24 trigger groups because you'll have a group for you hiding the top card and showing the bottom. And then you will have a second trigger group that will hide the bottom card and show the top card again. Right, so you will have 24 little trigger groups set up in there now. All right, last step is going to be that we need to move our top cards back over the top of the bottom cards again. So I'm just going to go through and select each of those using the Shift key on my keyboard and then move them back over the top. There we go. And now again, I can test this out. I'm going to run my slideshow. And again, I'm going to click on one of my top cards. The animation should then hide that top card. and then it will show my bottom card. But now I have the second set of animations where if I click on the bottom card, it now hides the bottom card and brings my top card back. So now we have a fully functional little game of concentration where students can just click on a card and try and match the pictures. Now, how I would normally play this is that when students make a match, they leave those cards open. All right, but otherwise, if the match is not made, then they close the card back over and they continue playing. The next student has their turn. So I hope this helps to get a visual of how this actually gets put together. As I said at the start, it is a little bit fiddly, but well worth the effort because it is a great resource to have. The really nice thing too is that now that you have this as a template, you can save this and create copies off of this. So what it means is that you would just go into those bottom cards, you can ungroup those so that it will allow you to delete those pictures, and you can replace them with other pictures. You could replace them with text, have a question on there, whatever you want to do. So it does give you a little bit more flexibility with it as well. So I hope you've really enjoyed this. Don't forget to like this video. And if you're interested in seeing more of my content as it gets put up online, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Pop any comments or questions below, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks, everyone.